doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
So I got to ask permission to buy the gun, and then I got to pay to ask permission to carry the motherfucker outside of my house. How about you go fuck yourself?
And that's why I can't be on terrestrial radio.
We should really.
You're one of them. You're one of them.
He's one of them.
Yeah, but I'm saying it about very important issues, you know.
Yes, you are. But we should really record that. Now that I actually have an internet connection that's not going in reverse, we should really record that.
Yeah,
We should.
absolutely. Well, I've been
you
telling
don't say much,
y'all
so
to
that's
send
why you're
me.
not on there.
Yeah, well, I've been telling y'all to send me stuff for like a month or two now, and I edit it in.
I really can't say anything between because Harkos doesn't shut up, or Ken never shuts up.
True story.
Yeah,
I mean,
we just have to mute Ken
yeah.
every once in a while and just start talking over him.
Yeah, and it's like even at car shows, Ken won't stop talking. He won't. We were at a car show on Saturday. He won't let other people talk. He's just talking the entire time. He's like, "Yeah, this car was built," blah, 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 blah. And the guy, "Yeah, can I talk about my car?" No. I'm completely kidding. But yeah.
No, you're not. That's probably true.
It's not. It's true. It's true. I'm bad about that. You know, I could start talking about Ray's car, or you know, and it's
What kind of car does he have?
he's got.
You tell us. We won't let him tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Ray, just stand by a second. I'll let you go in a minute.
Yeah,
So
he'll tell us about your car. Okay,
First, let's talk about the Snowflake wheels. Pontiac came out with the Snowflake wheels in the mid 70s for Trans Ams and for the high end Grand Prix cars, and a lot of them were just black in the centers. But on certain cars like the Esprit, Firebird, kind of they were color matched to the body, which was the only car they did that to. But the other cars they didn't. So those are the kind of facts that are in my head.
So they're snowflake tires. So
They're
they get
snowflake
triggered
wheels.
easy.
Yeah, the snowflake shaped wheels with the color match. So they're red to match the car.
Yep, they're gorgeous. The car struck me because it is something that's really, really different. And you see the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Ams; those are around because now everyone that has a Firebird converts it to a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. There's more now than I think there was when they were new.
Yeah,
But
why wouldn't you?
to see like a Formula or something,
Well, I'll
different.
tell you why. I'm going to answer that question because
Okay.
it's not a Trans Am. I mean, there's nothing that's even close. I mean, just because it shares a few body panels doesn't make it a Trans Am.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the same engine, doesn't have the same, the gauges are different. There's a lot different. And with my car, when I bought it, the guy and his son were going to make us a tribute out of that thing. It was going to be a Bandit car. And I got the shaker hood and the fenders with the extra pieces and all the plastic stuff to make a Smoky car out of that thing. And I said, no, as a Redbird, it's much more unique, and that's what it's supposed to be, and I'm going to make it as close to factory as I can. And now when I go to a show, in a sea of wonderful Trans Ams, I have nothing against them. They're great, and they're actually worth more money. Trans Ams still are. My Redbird is always the only one. I never ever see another one, and I don't see the blue or the yellow ones. I did see a blue one time. They're called the Skybird, and they are sky blue.
That is blue. Yes.
Yeah, they are bluer than blue. So, and then the yellow is kind of a banana yellow.
Trans Am, the first trans men were actually proud to be inside of. Right? Come on now. That's a t-shirt, Jason. Fuck. You're going to show the picture? Somebody had that picture up on the
Ken did.
screen. Yeah,
Yep.
Ken. He
Yep,
didn't
I
share
just-
it, though.
Oh, didn't share? Oh,
No,
I'm
because it
sorry.
was just race face.
Okay.
It wasn't his car. It was his face.
You're with it, dude. You got to learn the software now. So
Yeah, I know. While you're using this StreamYard thing, I'm a Zoom guy.
You're in the big time.
Well, I got Riverside, so.
Well, we all got something.
I've got a shot. I've got a shot of the car. It's not the exact same car, but here we go. We're gonna
So
go
what kind of car is your car? Because Ken didn't tell us.
It's a 1979 Pontiac Firebird, with Esprit with the Redbird trim package.
Right.
That's that one. I also have a red 68 Mustang Coupe,
There we go.
and that's all I've got for old cars right now. I just sold my 66 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. And
That's a
and my
sweet car.
and the 74 Challenger that I had.
Ooh.
That's all gone
So
too.
those are the Snowflake tires.
Yeah.
There we go.
Snowflake wheels. Yeah.
I get it.
Can you zoom in on that, Ken?
Yeah. Hold on just a sec here. Share the run.
And
screen.
again, that's not my car, but it's the same model.
similar. You don't have the spoiler in the back, right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do have a spoiler. Okay.
Yeah,
So this
today I'd run across a Le Mans for the first time in a long time because a lot of people around here they got GTOs, they got Pontiac GTO. That's the thing, Yeah, but we saw one beautiful one. They've been having a lot of car shows out here in California or in my area lately. So got to feast on a nice Le Mans. It was sweet. It was a real
So, I'd like to see a nice Le Mans or a Tempest that hasn't been turned into a GTO clone.
Absolutely.
Oh, so it's the rim, not the actual
That's the
tire.
rim.
Yeah.
Because they're like a snowflake design. Those are hot in the 80s.
No, that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
They are.
Yeah, they're great looking wheels, great looking.
Is that
car.
like was that powder coated on there or was it something else?
It's just painted on there. It's
Yeah, it was just paint. Yeah, they didn't have powder coat back then.
Yeah, if you wanted the girl, you had to add the snowflake. So at that time, you had to be a snowflake at that time.
Yeah, you had it was
That was
that was when
bonus.
being a snowflake was a good thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I was the Camaro guy. That's what I had.
Well, somebody had told me, and it's true. I noticed it. I was at the Anoka car show a couple of weeks ago with the Redbird, and a buddy of mine said, "Oh, the guys all love a Trans Am, but the girls are looking at the Redbird." And I walked over, and there was a group of girls pointing at it and taking pictures with them with the car in the background. I thought that was really cool. They're in their 20s and they're posing with my car. I'm like, "Yep."
There we go, winning. I get the
that's how
same
you win.
with my. I got that '97 Lincoln Town Car, the black one I've got, and most people at car shows, who cares? They just walk by it. But the girls, the young girls, they're like, "Oh, this is like an old school limo, like the mobsters drove." And I'm like, "Well, why don't you sit in, take a picture?" And they're like, "Oh." And I've done that a bunch of times. I go to a lot of these new car shows. So in the whole world of cars, there's the old guys like us that have the old muscle cars and different, and then there's the new people that have the new cars, the Japanese ones, the Mercedes and BMWs and the tuner cars. And these two, it's like oil and water. These two groups never mix. Well, my son's into the newer group, so I take the Lincoln to the newer group, and it's really funny because they look at this thing as an old relic. It's a 1997, for crying out loud. To me, it's a new car.
Yeah.
It's got disc brakes and no points.
It's an airbag. It has an airbag.
There's an airbag and power steering and shit. But you go to shows, and it's funny to watch the new the cars, the car show scene for the new kind of style cars. I'd say 1990 and up. They go to a lot of people coming there. Photographers go and they bring models. So you'll go to these car shows and there'll be 5 or 6 photographers walking around with these models, like Fast and Furious style, all dressed to the nines, taking pictures with cars and stuff. And I just think it's very interesting. They always come over to the Lincoln and like, and I said, well, we'll just open the door, because I always got some ridiculous shirt on or something. And open the door, let them come out, come in, come out, do whatever, make it look like they arrived somewhere in a limousine. Because you can't tell. It's a black town car. I mean, from the back, if you show the back wheel and the back door, they just got out of a limo. That's all they know.
Well, we impressed a lady over at the Wisconsin or Baldwin, Wisconsin.
Tell that story to Ray. It's pretty funny. He stayed at a hotel right near me.
So I'm in town for the Back to the 50s car show, and I have no problem talking to anybody. I'm like Ken. I can meet anybody anywhere and talk to them wherever. So I'm waiting outside for Ken to pick me up. We're going to go out to dinner, and something like that. Yeah, we're going out to dinner. And I spark up a conversation with this little old lady that's sitting at the front door. Oh, how you doing? We're exchanging pleasantries, and she's from San Francisco. I'm from Gilroy, and what brings you here? And blah blah blah. So about the middle of the conversation, here comes Ken in his town car. I always want to call it. What do I usually call it? So whatever.
You call it a Continental, and that's what
yeah,
poor people drive.
I get all mixed up. Well, he comes out of
it's like calling my car Trans Am.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. And he comes out of the driver's seat, and he's all like, Mr. McGee, did you call for a car? And we just went on with the diatribe. I caught right onto it. I'm just going like, yeah, this is Mr. McGee right here. And by the way, did you bring my Skittles, my green Skittles, and my warm Perrier water? Because that's what I need. Could you get my door for me?
The look on the lady's face.
I brought your gray poupon when you get in.
The look on the lady's face was classic. She was just
black Lincoln, that's the right color though for that car. It looks perfect. I had that same body style. I had a 91 Cartier.
Beautiful.
It was silver. I got it from, I would take that one. I got 2 town cars passed down to me from my dad when he got a different one. He liked it, but he had to dress them up. He goes, I don't want mine. Well, when he had that 91, I had an 86 at the time, Cartier.
Uh-huh.
And I loved that car. Well, then I got the 91 from him and he had to put a mock top on it, so it had the fake convertible top on it.
Yeah.
So it was really lipstick up, and he had, and he had the bright work over the wheel wells and everything. And then when he got rid of that one, and then he got a different one, and I didn't take the next one. But then when he passed away, I got his 06. Again, had the top treatment on it and the whole works. 22,000-mile car. Jeez.
Was
But yeah,
was it cars before your DJing, or was it DJing before cars?
oh, about the same. I've always been into the car scene ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it the Hot Wheels? Was it the Evil Knievel? Was it the
It was sitting on Dad's lap at age 4, steering on his way to the liquor store.
I did the
That'll
same
do it.
thing. I did the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, more than that, So, and it was he always had some kind of cool cars around too, and he encouraged me to get into the car scene big time young. So, and he also bought me my 2 turntables and a microphone. So,
that was the same with me and my grandfather. My grandfather would always let me drive his truck.
I got 2
And-
turntables and a microphone. See, I grew up in the 90s. You can do 90s reference all day. I got it.
You're probably the only one on the panel that did.
Yeah, he is.
maybe.
Yeah.
He's the spring chicken. We still call him the kid. He's freaking almost 40 years old. Or like, the kid from Indiana.
Exactly. I was born in 86. So like I grew up only in the 90s, basically. Like that was my whole childhood. So, my local radio station, there was the pop station, and then there was the country, obviously, but I didn't listen to that. And then there was the rock station. And the rock station, there was that one, and then there was the oldies rock station, right? That had Bob and Tom on it, and then Q95, and then they would actually play like Zeppelin and Skinner and all that, all that kind of stuff, like the country rock and stuff like that. Even Bob Seger and stuff would be playing on Q95 on the 103.3 that I listened to. It's X103. That was more like the new age stuff. So they would play like Metallica. Well, it's not new age. You get what I'm saying. But like they would play like Metallica and Pantera and like all the 90s rock. So like whenever Incubus, they would play all that. Like so like I just grew up on 90s rock. Like my dad was a Kiss Army fan. You know what I'm saying? So that's why when you say you met Ace Frehley, I'm like, shit, I met Ace Frehley. Like because we would go to Kiss conventions. I went to their first farewell tour, not their 5th one, but the first one. I was at that one.
What about their 10th one?
Huh?
What about their 10th or 15th?
Yeah, there's something like that. Every year it's a farewell. Farewell to last
And
year.
Motley Crue, in Motley Crue, they keep farewelling too. Just go.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones. I mean, check out the Rolling Stones. I mean, my God, Rolling Stones.
Well, there's that. But I met Ace Frehley whenever they'd all split. So whenever they got, who was it? Oh, God, I can't remember exactly how they split, but 2 of them formed Kiss, but they did it with no makeup, and then they got 2 other people in. God, one of the guys' name was Chris something, I think. But I don't know. I ended up meeting him at a Kiss convention, and like there was only 2 of them there, and then there was the 2 fill-ins. Like I remember that Gene Simmons wasn't there, and I think Peter Criss wasn't there as well too. But yeah, it wasn't weird. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying though. Is that
Really,
we're talking about the 90s, okay, man? We're talking about when they had their split in the 90s. So you can't get all of them together.
Nobody remembers that anymore because that wasn't really Kiss.
Except for me, because I was like 11 or something
There's
like
a
that.
band that's so huge, and they were in town, Minneapolis, here tonight, playing as Foo Fighters. Now, they're so huge, and I just don't get them. None of their music sticks for
the Kiss or the Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters. I
I'm
just
with
can't.
you there.
Really?
I hear their music, and I'm like, none of it sticks. And you know what? One of the things I figured out,
goes my hero.
one of the things I guess I don't like about that era of music, and again, this is kind of 90s and 2000s when they started doing this, is I don't know what you call it, but when the guitar is just one loud. I mean, just
power chords.
Yeah, it's like 3 notes, just noise in the background, and it's like anybody could do that, right?
So you're saying you didn't like Green Day because
they
they would only use power chords.
They do, but the thing about Green Day is though, what's his name? The singer. It sounds like he's got a stuffed up head.
He does.
Right, Billy Joel. Right.
And he sounds like this. I want to blow my nose.
Yeah, he did.
I got a cold last week.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Foo Fighters, if the lead singer of the Foo Fighters were to shave, he would mysteriously look like the drummer from Nirvana.
If only he would shave, he would look
If
like
only
him.
would
That's
shave, it would
correct.
look like that.
You
know, I thought
you said food fighters, and there's
did.
a food pantry in my town called Food Finders Food Bank. And so when you said that, yeah, no, yeah, that was interesting. He would kind of look like the drummer from Nirvana. That's interesting.
Yes, he would.
I saw a funny interview with those guys. This was years ago, and they're like, Foo Fighters, where did that name come from? How did you guys come up with that name? And it was one of those really serious interviews. And I think it was Grohl. He says, well, because we wanted to call ourselves Fuck Bucket, but we figured that would be hard on the radio.
Mhm.
And I'm like, my goodness, that's funny.
Yeah, but that's not where they actually got it. I mean,
No,
the
I
Foo
know,
Fighters
but
were back
it
from
was
World War II. Yeah.
Right. No, I know that, but it was a funny commentary there when he's just
Dave
like,
Grohl is an interesting character because, like
Yeah.
Jason said, he was the drummer of Nirvana. And then after Kurt Cobain decided to redecorate his house, like he just became a lead singer
Mhm.
and guitarist out of like nowhere.
He's
And
an
I
old
don't-
school musician.
Yeah, exactly.
he's-
Like he can do like anything. And I don't know if you've ever heard I can't remember what the name of him and the lead singer of Slipknot and a couple other people
Taylor.
made yeah, Corey Taylor, yeah, thank you. They made this song called From Can to Can't, or from maybe I have it backwards. But it's a really, really good song where like Dave was actually back on the drums again and stuff during that song. And of course, Corey Taylor just like rocked the fuck out because he can sing like none other.
Yes, he can.
And but that's a really, really good song. And like that's where you can see that like what you said, Dave is like an overall musician. You know, he's like a musician's musician. Like that dude, I think he can even play piano too, if I'm not mistaken.
I was really impressed when they were doing that thing where they were stopping in at people's garages and doing garage shows.
Yes,
in
that was
neighborhoods.
cool.
That was pretty sweet.
That's pretty cool.
You know, so much respect.
Yeah. People like that I have a lot of respect for.
Well, and there's been a real sea change in musicians. You know, Ray, my dad was a musician. A lot of the stuff that's behind me here is stuff from my dad's music career and big band jazz and that kind of thing. Mostly is what he did, and he wrote and arranged music too. And these guys, all of his friends, they were all multi-talented entertainers. You know, if you played trumpet, you also sang. You also did something else. You usually played the piano. Usually did something else. And most of the entertainers for many, many years, even the rock and roll guys, could all do it. There was a Beatles movie that came out. It was a 4-part series. Was it Get Back?
Back to where you once
Just a
belonged.
few years ago it came out.
Yeah, it came out. It was.
I haven't seen it of all, and I'm a Beatles guy. And I haven't seen it.
I'm not a Beatles guy. I appreciate them. I never loved them, but I appreciate what they did in music. But this is one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. If you ever know anyone that's into music or have ever been in a band or anything, because it peels back all the layers of the onion of this is what it's like being in a band. You know, they got Yoko Ono sitting she's sitting right next to John at the piano or the guitar the whole time. And you could just see how much tension that brought into the thing. But you could also see that the guys were like, just put up with it, you know, just like whatever. But as they're going through figuring out songs, you know, they're figuring out, you know, the melodies and stuff of their big songs from like 69. And, you know, right. And it leads up to when they played on the roof.
Mhm.
Remember that big thing they played on the roof and the cops came and arrested them and all that kind of stuff. It shows the whole trajectory up to that point. That's the pinnacle of the series. But watching that, you can watch these guys and realize how just incredibly talented. You know, there's one point where George Harrison leaves the band. He's like, no one's listening to me. I got great ideas and you don't want to hear them. So screw it. I'm out, you know, and that kind of thing was happening. So it's everything that's, I mean, it's just exactly the same as my high school band. But they're the freaking Beatles and you're watching them doing it. It's just like everyone goes through this, but they were all so talented. At some point, it's going to start clashing, and it was just interesting to watch. It's a really cool.
I think what's interesting about the Beatles is how they were able to span not just a couple of decades, but also different transitions within music.
Yeah,
because I mean, when they first came out, I mean, they were, you know, not necessarily
bubblegum pop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's better. I was going to say Beach Boys style,
band.
but
yeah,
yeah,
basically
there was
cover
that
band.
too. Yeah, and then they evolved to be like some of the lead of the whole hippie movement type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they went from.
In my experience, they forced it. I mean,
And that was
because
literally your experience because you were about
They-
50 to 60 when they
yeah, I was
first
about
came out.
15 years old about that time.
Right.
But no, they forced that issue. I mean, when they came out, I was used to, my sister listening to the Beatles, I love you, yeah, 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 that all
Right.
that, the poppy stuff and some of the, and then when George started, he started messing with mushrooms and all that other Eastern meditation.
Once the sitar showed up, it all changed.
Yeah, once
Yes.
the cigar showed up, it all changed, and Yoko Ono came onto the scene. They pretty much forced their issue as far as music was concerned, and for some reason, it just caught on in some different niches, and they just moved forward. And
You mentioned Yoko Ono a couple of times. We in this discussion we all have. She's come up a couple times now. Are you familiar with the Lost Weekend story?
no,
No.
but I'd love to hear it.
May Pang. Okay, May Pang was John and Yoko's house girl. Like she was the slave for them, and hired by Yoko. And what happened was, and I got all this directly from May herself. She had to work for them, and John liked his Asian women, and
Who doesn't?
Yoko was getting a little nervous about John's, what John was going to try next. So she set it up. She wanted May and John to go off and spend some time together. Well, it turned out to be 2 years. They ditched her and went to LA and hung out with Bowie and recorded Walls and Bridges. And I mean, they completely ditched Yoko and left her for 2 years. It was
Attaboy.
weekend, And so May Pang she's still making a living out of being the other woman. She's got an art gallery thing. She does photos and stuff. She's traveling around. We've stayed in touch. She's got a Facebook page, and but here's what happened was I met her on a travel group. I was working for doing promotional stuff for Iceland Air. And Iceland Air came to me and they said, you did that Beatles thing in Liverpool, and you've been on a couple other trips with us. I need your help. My assistant is going to bail on me, and I've got 20 people I need you to keep an eye on. If you come and help, I'll put you at the front of the plane. I'll give you some money and just help make sure everybody gets to where they need to be on this week-long travel thing. You and May Pang will do it together. I'm like, May Pang? Really? So I met May Pang, and she told me all kinds of cool John Lennon stories because she was his girlfriend for 2 years.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it was, before I went to do this, our first stop was in Reykjavik, Iceland, and then off to Liverpool. And everybody at KQ was giving me crap. They're going, what if you run into Yoko Ono? Then what are you going to do? And they were all joking. I'm like, oh, I bet you those two would go into a cat fight and all this stuff. And well, we did. We did. Yoko was in Reykjavik in our same hotel.
Beautiful.
Some art things she had going on, and May had found out about it, and I didn't know this. May it was just a few hours before we ended up walking into breakfast. She had told she sent a card to her saying, "Look out for me. I'm in the hotel," but. I ended up, there was a news story and KQ read it, and Tom Bernard was on. He goes, uh-oh, I wonder if this has to do with Ray Erick. It says, Lennon's ladies meet at the top of the world. Just yesterday morning when May Pang and a companion came to breakfast, I was the
And you're the companion.
You were the companion.
And we walked up on her, and they hadn't spoken since 1979.
Whoa.
And she goes up to Yoko. She goes, there's Yoko. So we go up to her, and she's sitting there with a bodyguard. She's got this big white hat on, and she's sitting in there having her orange juice. And all of a sudden, her eyes get all wide, and she just goes, May Pang, and shakes her hand lightly. And that was kind of it. It was kind of chilly and kind of weird. And we leave, and then it got totally, really high school with May. We get a few feet away, and she goes, Yoko's got to be wondering what I'm doing with talking to you. Act like you're a reporter and you're like super interested in me. And she gave me a pen and a piece of paper, and she goes, pretend like you're interviewing me and tell me what she's doing. And she's looking over this way, and I'm like, are we really playing this game with Yoko Ono?
Yeah, you're 15 again.
Yeah, like, who cares? Let's just go.
Wow.
No.
So yeah, she's another one you want to Google May Pang. There's tons. I mean, she's done like books after book of just photo stuff about her and Lennon, and just tell me his what he liked for breakfast. Now she had to go score the heroin in the early days, and she said Yoko did not like Chinese women. She's Japanese, and she liked to hire Chinese girls to wait on her.
Ah, yeah.
That's what she told me.
Wow.
Wow. I googled May Pang and hit images, and the second one that came up says The Lost Weekend, like what you
Yeah.
were just saying. Actually, all of them are saying The Lost Weekend.
Well, there's actually, I think there's a documentary out about it that's called that right now too. I think that she's still relevant in that. She's still coming up in media. May Pang is quite a bit. Like, she's touring and she's talking about her photo albums and stuff. And then there was a documentary called The Lost Weekend.
Oh.
But I don't know if you know the song Number 9 Dream, Lennon.
Number 9 Dream. I know that one.
And there's a part where he goes, when you call out my name, May goes, John. that's actually
her.
May. Yeah, it's May on the song.
Oh, I love it.
That's her, yeah. So she got to be on a record.
Oh my God.
Have any of you seen that? There's videos that have been floating around by some guy named Andy something, and he's there back in like 2012 at an art exhibition thing again. Yoko came out and stepped up to a microphone and screamed for 3 minutes straight.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
remember
there's
that.
a guy that's adding music underneath and the different songs. It's like, May Pang sings Pearl Jam Alive. Or not May Pang, but Yoko Ono sings Pearl Jam Alive. And it'll start out, and then she'll just go, and she screams. I've heard it done to Billy Joel, Big Shot. I've heard it done to Celine Dion, My Heart Will
I heard
Go On.
that. I think I've heard it. Yeah.
I've heard
The Bad Company.
I think May Pang back then was more attractive than Yoko.
Oh, of course she was. Yoko.
I know Adam Curry. Adam Curry actually talks about that every once in a while on his show, No Agenda. So we get the Yoko Ono references all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But her voice is still the same as it always has been.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being horrible, is it never changes.
Aged really well. Yeah, it's aged very well.
Mm-hmm.
That's positive.
When you're watching that Beatles thing, that documentary I was watching, it just going, you're John friggin' Lennon. How did this person be the one that you're gonna, that, you know what I mean? How did out of the amount of thousands of women throwing themselves at you at every moment, how was this one the one that's going to for the life of me, I'll never understand that. But
well, he was an odd cat. Let's just put it
true.
And not the greatest to his first
But
family.
you could have an odd cat and also get another odd cat, like
May.
May, I suppose. Well, I'm thinking more
different kind of cat. Sorry, I thought you were talking about
different kind of cat. I'm just saying the other odd cat can also be hot. It's she just, even in this video back then I'm watching, I'm like, she's not even attractive. I mean, Linda McCartney was her own kind of problem for Paul, but she was very attractive, so it made sense to me. I'm like, all right, I get that. But
I mentioned you, I got a chance to interview Paul, which is a highlight of my career, and that was when he had, and I'm like, I'm not going to mention the one-legged wife that he had that was trying to take him to the cleaners.
Yeah,
well, that's when he was married to her.
He had a one-legged wife.
He had a peg-leg wife that was trying to sue him for everything he was worth in a divorce. It was awful.
Which one was that? I can't remember.
I don't remember, but it was.
I remember he was married to Jerry Hall, right? Jerry Hall.
No, that was Mick Jagger, wasn't it?
That was
That
Mick
was Mick Jagger. I'm sorry. See, I got it all.
Speaking of who's married to who,
The 60s were hard for Bruce.
So I interviewed
interviewed
McCartney, and I hung.
Oh
out with
well,
May
she's kind of hot though. So
yeah. So then I got a chance. Like I said, I hung out with May Pang, so that's my closest thing to Lennon. I never got anywhere near Harrison, but my almost connection to Ringo was 1989, St. Paul, the very first Ringo Starr All-Star Band show.
Nice.
I was working for Cool 108 at the time.
I remember them.
And it was 1989, and I lied my way with a buddy backstage with a duffel bag with a giant boombox in it. I got up on stage and I got photos. I got to hug Barbara Bach,
Nice.
Ringo's wife.
Very nice.
And that's the only contact I had with anybody. But I got within 10 feet of Ringo, Joe Walsh, Levon Helm, Rick Danko, Dr. John, Clarence Clemens.
Oh, kick ass.
That was the best lineup they've ever had. And I took a photo of a guy taking their photo, and that photo was the cover of People magazine. And I got a picture of me taking the picture of the guy taking that photo.
The photo of the photo. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, and then I rolled tape on the show and bootlegged the whole thing in full stereo. Went out in front. I had a duffel bag on the ground. The bass is a little bit too smashed and compressed, but I'll tell you what, I got Ringo forgetting the words to one of them, and he comes out and he just got out of treatment at Hazelden. And he comes out and he's like, "Hello, finally made it to the fairgrounds." I got out of that other place, and here's a song I did with those other boys. And then
Yes.
in the town where I was born. And but I got Joe Walsh doing Life in the Fast Lane, and I got
Nice.
and
Cool.
Yvonne Helm doing The Wait. Oh,
Joe Walsh is my old-time favorite guitarist, and I would love to meet that guy.
that
For
was
sure.
that was awesome, you know. And I actually I technically beat him out for a job.
Wow.
Not really, but it was when I was filling in. When Tom Bernard on the KQ Morning Show would be gone, I'd either fill in and sit in, or I'd do Best of the Morning Show, and it was working out just fine. And in those days, Joe Walsh is a very educated guy. I mean, he sounds like a dope when he talks, but he's really educated.
He's
He's extremely intelligent. And one of the things he would do would he go around and do fill-ins on morning shows, and his people approached my program director and said, "Hey, how would you like to have Joe Walsh sit in when your guy Tom Bernard's out for a couple of days?" And he's like, "Oh no, we got Ray Erick doing Best Of. We're good."
yeah, his compositions and I don't want to say prior to the Eagles, because he was really always a part of the Eagles, but his prior composition stuff like So What, and all the
Rocky Mountain Way is one of my favorite classics.
Rocky Mountain Way.
That's great.
He did some compositions of some instrumentals that are just incredible.
But
And
hey, talk like this though. We had him.
and he wrote every single one of them, and it's just impressive. Go back into his history, and it's just really impressive what he's done.
So did Paul McCartney really steal his ex-wife's leg?
I'm wondering what you're putting up there.
Like,
Isn't that funny?
Because it says right here, who could forget get the fuck out of here? Who could forget the time Paul McCartney stole the prosthetic leg of his ex-wife Heather Mills and strummed it like a guitar on stage? I'm trying to figure out if it's real. It kind of looks photoshopped.
Does it say Onion anywhere?
No,
That
it's
will be
Madhouse Magazine.
Yeah, it's probably
okay.
that's
It's
a
comedy. So I'm
super
like,
reputable.
right. Well, I mean, there's also this article down here that Tom Morello buys an even shorter guitar strap. So I was like, wait a second, this might be a parody thing.
Yeah, I think it might be safe on that one.
It might be in the fake news realm there.
Yeah, well, one thing about Heather Mills is she can't run away very fast, so that's good.
No, but I mean, she is not bad looking at all. Where's that
She
picture?
found her way to the bank though, in some way. I'm not sure how that ended, but
Absolutely.
Yeah, right here. It's like, look at that. One leg. It doesn't matter. You can put the other one over her head too.
I had here's another musician encounter. One time, little Steven Van Zant came and sat in with me at the Mighty Q one day on a Saturday.
That'd
2
be
hours. He came in from 10 to noon with me and sat in, and we just sat and blew the format off and played whatever he wanted to do. He was promoting his show of this Little Steven's Underground Garage, which was being played on KQ Sunday nights. And he came in there, and it was just listening to him tell stories. Have you ever heard him speak?
No, I don't think so.
And he was on The Sopranos, that too, and he was one of the gangsters on there.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
that's right. That's right.
Silvio, and he's like, so he's sitting down next to me, and he's like, yeah, it comes to back the time back in Jersey with Bruce hanging around the pizza place. Yeah, we like those songs. And he was just that's how he was. And he's like, hey, let's play this one. This is really cool. The New York Dolls. Yeah, the New York Dolls. I mean, playing all these like weird songs and stuff. It was kind of fun. And then towards the end of the show, he goes, so what do you got going on after the show here today? What are you doing? And I said, I've got a bar promotion gig. I got an appearance at O'Gara's Garage.
O'Gara's, yeah.
Bar. And he goes, hey, is that a good place? And I said, yeah, good enough to go. You want to go along? And maybe I'll go with you. I'll go, we had to call O'Gara's and go, heads up. Little Steven Van Zandt just announced that he's going to join me at the bar gig that we're doing there.
It
And
might
we
be
got
busier.
there. Oh, and the parking lot was full of people standing out front they all wanted autographs. We get over there and he rode in his limo followed us. He rode in my car with me so we could play around with the radio all the way over and listen to different stuff. And he made his limo follow me I'm in my Tahoe and he's riding with me.
Oh,
And
that's
we
great.
go over to O'Gara's and there's this sea of people and they parted the Red Sea for us and I pulled my truck up right to the back door and he went in there and we were just getting swamped in there with people and that was a lot of fun.
Let's talk about that being subject to all kinds of weird music and stuff. Have you ever been caught in the middle of a format change of a radio?
Yeah, I sure have.
I'd love to hear that story because I have a couple of friends of mine who have been DJs that got caught in the middle of a format change, and either they went in one day and they just didn't have a job,
Kind of like how Pantera had a format change from glam rock to metal.
Yeah.
I actually ended up with a job though, because I went to this radio station that they had an oldie show, and I just thought it sounded so great. There was a couple different stations that were competing on Saturday nights with these oldie shows, and this was in the 80s, and they're playing 60s and 50s even music, and I thought it was so much fun for a car lover. It was so American Graffiti-esque, and I wanted to do that Saturday night show that the station had, and they hired me. And I said, okay, cool. And he goes, do you want to do Saturday nights? I said, I sure do. And he goes, well, then the week before I was supposed to start, the program director calls me and he goes, we're going to make a little change though. I hope you don't mind. The music's going to be a little different. They flipped it to active rock. So it went from a classic hits station with an oldie show on Saturday nights to Metallica.
Yeah.
And there's this brand new album, and here's Fade to Black. It's Ride the Lightning was the latest thing. And Metallica, and that's where I had Guns N' Roses in studio and that station. So it was blistering, And the funny thing was that was a family-owned business back then too. And the guy's name was Roy Park, who owned it. And he lived in New York, and this is before the internet. And when Roy Park would come to town, they'd flip back to playing Mellencamp and stuff while he was in town. And they'd take out all the imaging that mentioned Hot Rockin' 104 and be, hey, it's 104 FM, and here's, the Authority song. And as soon as he'd leave town, yeah, Flotsam and Jetsam. Just get all hard
hilarious.
again. And they turn it back to active metal and stuff.
So
Ray,
that
we
makes
okay.
So that X103 I used to listen to growing up. I remember one night they're like, hey, all night until midnight we're gonna be playing uncensored like nonstop Pantera, and I'm like, oh shit, all right, cool, so I went to sleep because I was like 6th grade or whatever, right? And so went to sleep listening to Pantera and stuff. Awesome, right? I wake up in the morning, my radio's still on, right? A little alarm clock radio. I wake up in the morning and it's all like Mexican, like mariachi music. And I'm like, maybe I hit the button and changed the station in the middle of the night or something, right? So I went back. I was like, no, it was 107.1. I was like, which was a better rock station than X103, right? But I was like, what the fuck? I was like, no, it's on 107.1. So I kept listening, and they were just speaking Spanish in between the songs and stuff. I'm like, what the hell? Well, I kept tuning in like every day, and it kept being. I was like, oh, they changed the channel. So they did a station change, like what you said, but they went from
format change.
They went from I used to listen to them more than X103 because it was 107.1 because they actually played like better music. But apparently, station whatever happened, all of a sudden they switched, and I'm like, what the hell? So I had to go back and start listening to X103. I didn't like it because they were like the more like radical radio station. Maybe that's what ended it.
Our legacy rock and roll station. We had 2 legacy rock and roll stations in the Bay Area. One was called KOME. There's a come on your radio. That was their big tagline. And then there was KSJO. Both of them were super big time. One was 98.5. The other one was 92.7. They were always in competition with each other.
So the San Francisco,
Yeah, the San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the Camel was in San Francisco. This was all San Jose. But one day I'm listening to KSGO one night, just like Harcos was, and the next day turn it on, it was all Mexican radio.
Oh well, you're in California. I'm in Indiana. We're talking about the 90s.
And about a week later, KOME went on the same thing. KOME went from rock into country. So it had to do with, I believe it was before Cumulus came around, whoever bought Cumulus was the outfit that bought those radio stations and changed them and turned them all over. And then a whole bunch of other stations just turned to straight news. And that was a real big thing too. So we had a bunch of big time radio stations out here. KMEL was big. 1061 KMEL, that was big in San Francisco.
Was Ron Jacobs on the air in
yeah, Ron Jacobs was on the air on Camel.
He was a big deal in the radio biz. He was, in fact, he created, I think, the American Top 40 show was him.
Right.
Wow.
Also, he created the Cruisin' series, if you are familiar with those.
Yeah.
With all those like 1961, 1962, they're like air checks radio. That's all him too. And when I was a teenager, his sister lived across the street from me, Lynn Jacobs, and she was a rather odd. My mom didn't like this woman. She was like 40ish, and I'm 15, and she's just wanting me to come over every day.
How you doing, huh?
Yeah, come on over here. And so Lynn would have me over for lunch and hang out with her, and want to drive my new car. And
I got a story about that too.
And so she finds out I want to be in the radio biz, and she goes, "My brother's Ron Jacobs. He's a big deal in the radio biz." So she goes, and this was so, I look back at how awkward was this for both me and Ron. She calls him up and says, "My neighbor Ray wants to get in the radio biz. Here, talk to him." Well, what's he going to say to me? And like, "Hi, Ron. I'm like, I want to be a DJ. I like music." Kid, and whatever. He's like, "Yeah, that's great, kid. Good for you," and whatever. And so, and he did. That was the end of that. Well, it turned out she ended up being just a weird woman, and her whole family disowned her and everything else. And years down the road, when internet came out and email came out, I found an email for Ron Jacobs. So I emailed him and said, "Hey, Ron, this is Ray Erick. I talked to you back when I was a teenager, your sister Lynn," and I kind of tried to refresh his memory on that. He responded to me and he said, "Yeah, Ray, I do remember that." And he goes, "I'm sorry if I may have sounded a little bit standoffish, but my sister's a nut job and I wanted nothing to do with her. And I'm surprised I even answered the phone at all. When she if I'd have known it was her, I probably wouldn't have answered." So he was really apologetic to me, but still said, "I hate my sister."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Ray, we were talking about the sea change of radio and program changes. I watched KQ do something that I've never seen any other radio station do. They went from being just a regular rock station to classic rock in an instant like that without changing a goddamn thing, because they were just always playing the same music.
It just got old and aged out and turned into
and then it was classic rock, and then they came to be the classic rock station in town. It
trips me out to hear people say Metallica's classic rock. I'm like, fuck, how old am I then? Am I Bruce now? What the
you're
fuck?
old.
You are,
old.
dude.
I felt old when I heard Tupac on Cool 108.
It went to Cool 108. So Cool 108, the oldies channel, was really 50s and 60s.
Yeah, when I was working there, I was playing a white sport coat from Marty Robbins.
Yeah, there you go.
Baby Love.
And they'd go to every car show. Remember, the Cool 108 was at every car show playing.
And I know everything evolves, but I'm like, okay, I get they're doing 80s and 90s now, but really, California Love, huh? Next to Laura Branigan or whatever. It sounded really
Love Shack. I'm like, Love Shack. How's that? I suppose it's 40 years old, for crying out loud.
Well,
that's crazy that they would consider Tupac oldies and put him on an oldie station.
Well, it's 90s, best of the 80s and 90s is their hook.
I get it, but
it was so weird to hear it on there. I'm like, wow. Dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what one of the radio stations, I think it was the pop station in my town, was like 96.5. They're like, when I was growing up, they're like the best of the 80s, 90s, and today, right? Because I mean, we were talking about, by the time I graduated high school, it was 2005, but like the best of 80s, 90s, and today, and I'm just like to think about that as classic rock now or classic anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, Jesus.
Wait till you're 40.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, exactly.
When your balls hit the toilet water, you're old. So there you go.
or you just kind of stretched out a little too much. They say. I got told when I was a kid, don't wear boxers because it'll start sagging. Well, I wore boxers my whole life. Now I don't even wear underwear. So imagine that, So
here we go.
He was just in the Olympics. He was just in the Olympics, wasn't he?
No, I was not on the.
I just saw something about the Olympics area. Something about that.
That opening ceremony.
Anyway,
looks
this is taking a dive.
Yes, it is.
This is how it devolves.
Nobody's
This might be the perfect time for me to bid y'all adieu.
Well, we really appreciate Ray. Thank you so much for coming on. To have you, someone like you, to come on and talk to us for schmucks here, it means a lot, and we really appreciate great stories. And but we'll see you at the car shows around here in town. But
yeah, I do
we
have
really
one quick
appreciate it.
question though, serious,
Go ahead.
100% serious. So yeah, I got to preface what I say because I'm not serious. But so if somebody wanted to get into radio today, right? Let's say somebody, what would you tell them? Because with the way radio is not like it was back in your day where, some chick you were seeing told you about a brother or whatever, right? Like, what would you tell somebody to do today? Hey, you know what? I would probably try doing these first couple of things to try to get your way into radio.
It's not a dead format. Terrestrial radio's still alive. It is.
Right.
But it's done so differently. I would say you get yourself into the door to do anything. Promotional work, sales assistant, because they're looking for people that can do 4 different jobs now. They're not, if you want to be on the air,
Good
don't
point.
go in there thinking that's what you're going to do. Go in there, just try to get a job in the building. And it inevitably they'll turn to you because they're going to need somebody. And before you know it, you're going to be on the air too. And so you got to be able to work in the office, work as, and I know that right now the new the gal that's, well, no, I guess I did hire her when I was working there as a part-timer. There's one, she ended up working in promotions for a while. Then she ended up working in the commercial production office and what they call traffic department, and the scheduling of the commercials and when they go and that kind of thing. And then she's got a regular date, Monday through Friday air shift now too. So that's usually how you end up in a spot. If you want to do radio like that, you got to have like 3 other jobs going with them.
Yeah. Cool.
That makes sense.
The days of just going in and being a DJ are just gone, except for WDGY. They allow me to do it. Again. I jumped to that.
Yeah, move up to here and go to WGDGY.
It's like,
Well, I mean, if all the music's digital, I can just do it from my house. Fuck.
And I've never done a pre-recorded show at that station. I go in live and do it in real time every time.
Well, when I had my radio show podcast, I went live on 2 different internet radio stations at the same time. One was in UK and the other one was based in Memphis. And but yeah, so like we used DJ software, on and then like I actually connected it in with like their server, and then I just broadcast on their server at a specific time or whatever and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't a pre-record. Like I did it live and stuff too. So this is interesting. That's interesting that you would. That makes sense though on why you would have to do like 5 different things, because they don't probably make as much money as what they used to, and so you got to have people kind of be able to do more than just one job in order to keep the place afloat.
Yeah, absolutely. Many hats are worn these days, and a little too many sometimes, and that's why it's just not for me anymore at that level. For if I've got to work for a company that's what they want, that's just not my thing anymore. I mean, bless you all, but it isn't for me. I wish the best for those people that are still having to work in that environment, because they still got, their lives to lead and a career that's still going, but it's really different now.
Well, thank you again, Eric, man. We really appreciate you coming on, man. And we'd love to have you back anytime you want to come on. Just we'll either contact you or you let us know, and then we're going to let Harkos take us up because this is his show.
All right. Well, you know where to find me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you for tuning in, every single one of y'all, and appreciate you, Ray, for stopping by and letting us actually see the face behind the radio, because everybody says you got to have a face for radio, but that's only for Bruce. But anyway, y'all have a good one. We'll see y'all later on the weather report in the morning. Or